Close your eyes and step into a British classroom in the early 1960s. The door shuts with a solid click. Chairs scrape once, then stop, and a hush settles that feels almost physical. One look from the teacher is enough to still 30 restless children, no raised voice required. Today, that silence feels unimaginable. Most people now would barely recognize this classroom at all. So how did teachers come to hold more fear and respect than parents themselves? The answer lies not in cruelty, but in authority, ritual, and a Britain that believed order was essential to growing up there. To understand that classroom silence, we have to step back into the Britain that shaped it. The country was still finding its feet after the long shadow of the war, and daily life revolved around order, routine, and clear roles. Institutions mattered. The post office, the local council, the church, and the school were trusted anchors in a changing world. Teachers sat firmly within that structure. They were not simply delivering lessons. They were seen as moral guides, guardians of standards, and steady adults in children's lives. Many lived locally, were known by name, and carried an authority that extended far beyond the classroom walls. When a teacher spoke, communities listened. Compare that with today, where classrooms are often warmer, noisier, and built around conversation. Children are encouraged to question, discuss, and express themselves freely. In the 1960s, learning was quieter and more formal, shaped by the belief that discipline created opportunity. Respect flowed downward, rarely challenged. This wasn't about fear for its own sake. It reflected a society that valued stability, predictability, and clear boundaries. And nowhere were those values more carefully preserved than inside the school gates. This mindset shaped childhood expectations in ways still felt today, quietly. Inside the classroom, the teacher was the law, and everyone knew it. The moment you crossed the school gates, a different set of rules applied. Backs were straight, voices lowered, and eyes faced forward. There was comfort in knowing exactly where the boundaries lay, even if they felt firm. The teacher decided the pace, the tone, and the outcome, and children accepted that authority as naturally as the ringing bell. What strengthened this power was the quiet partnership between school and home. Parents rarely questioned what happened during the day. If a note came home or a word was passed on at the gate, it was taken seriously and accepted as fact. There were no lengthy discussions, no second opinions. Home and classrooms spoke with one voice, and children understood there was no gap to slip through. That certainty made teachers seem almost untouchable. Authority was also built through ritual. Each morning followed the same rhythm, creating reassurance as much as control. Standing when addressed, copying neat handwriting from the board, reciting tables in unison, and waiting patiently to be chosen, all reinforced the idea that order mattered. Even small sounds carried meaning. Chalk tapping the board, polished shoes approaching down a corridor, or the scrape of a chair were signals that behavior should change instantly. To modern ears, this can sound intimidating, but fear was only part of the picture. Many pupils also felt pride in doing well and relief in clear expectations. Teachers represented the adult world. Children were preparing to enter a world of timetables, responsibility, and rules. For families focused on work and rebuilding stable lives, school provided structure and reassurance. Looking back, that classroom power wasn't just about control, it was about certainty, consistency, and a shared belief that respect created opportunity. And it was this atmosphere, steady and unyielding, that made the teacher's presence linger long after the lesson ended. It shaped how children spoke to adults, how they sat on buses, and how they viewed authority everywhere else. School lessons reached beyond books and sums, teaching patience, listening, and restraint. Those habits followed pupils into apprenticeships, offices, and factory floors, often without them realizing. Today, childhood feels louder and more flexible, filled with choices and explanations. Then, life felt narrower but clearer. That clarity explains why a teacher's glance could still a room and why the memory of it remains so vivid decades later. It also explains why so many former pupils can still recall names, voices, and mannerisms with surprising clarity. Teachers became landmarks in memory, marking time and personal growth. Some inspired, some intimidated, all left impressions. In that structured world, childhood felt serious, purposeful, and shared. The classroom was not just a room. It was training for society itself. Understanding that helps explain why those teachers felt larger than life, and why their authority still echoes whenever school days are remembered today. It shaped generations quietly, firmly, and collectively, long before anyone thought to question the system that defined everyday Britain. What stays with many of us is not individual lessons, but the feeling of being shaped. Growing up under firm guidance taught us how to listen, how to wait our turn, and how to measure ourselves against clear expectations. There was reassurance in knowing where the lines were drawn. Confidence often grew quietly, built through routine rather than praise. Teachers left marks that lasted far beyond school reports. A raised eyebrow, a kind word after class, or simple consistency could echo for decades. Even those who struggled remember feeling part of something shared, a collective experience that bonded a generation. Today, we sometimes wonder whether that strictness prepared us for adulthood or merely reflected the era we lived in. Perhaps it did both. It mirrored a Britain that valued order while giving children tools to navigate it. And maybe that is why those classrooms remain vivid in memory today still. Step into a classroom today, and the atmosphere is very different. Voices are encouraged, questions welcomed, and authority feels softer, more collaborative. It reflects a world that has changed, valuing expression over obedience. Yet looking back, that quiet authority of the past was never just about lessons. It was a shared British experience, shaped by its time that influenced how we grew, worked, and related to one another. It has faded gently into history now, and perhaps that's why it still stays with us. For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.